mother's not listening today, so I'm not worried. I want to welcome everyone to the Four Esoterics. No politics allowed. I'd like to remind everyone this podcast is being recorded. We follow Carlin's rules with one addition. Please be wearing pants, Lewis. Let's welcome the Esoterics, of course, Ben Boychuk.
Hello.
Editor of AM Greatness, Mr. Esoteric himself, Lewis Fine.
I made Woodland Hills today at the Motion Picture Academy rest home.
Make sure you get a COVID test.
And of course, my producer girlfriend, and let's congratulate her. She has been nominated for her 8th Emmy Award. And congratulations. And of course, you can find us at the number 4 ESOTERICS. You can find us on iTunes, the Apple Store. Subscribe to us there, and YouTube. And we're here discussing on this fine Saturday, as we wait for Chris Buskirk to join us in, overrated movies, overrated directors. And we brought this up at the end of last show. I saw Ben feverishly starting to write movies that I could see actually just irritated him in thought, that you think about every day.
Well, let me just preface this by saying that I wasn't thinking of when we at the end of the last episode. It was, what movies wouldn't you want your kids to see?
Yeah,
and my mind didn't go to overrated movies. My mind went to the movies that I saw in a proper movie theater, like in the mid 1980s. That it was 2 hours or an hour and a half of my life that I would never get back. And so that was what I started to kind of scribble out. I was in a test audience for Howard the Duck. It's
crazy mind melt. I was about to say Howard the Duck, but it's so obvious that it's garbage that you can't say it's overrated.
Test audience?
No, yeah. So I wouldn't say it was overrated. So that was what my first thought.
Well, but how did you get to be in a test audience? I'm curious.
So it's actually, it seemed pretty easy back in those days. There's an AMC multiplex in Burbank, California, and invariably that's where I'd get hit up for one of these things. And so there was somebody from the studio or whatever outside. Would you be interested in being in a test audience for? They don't tell you what the movie is. You don't really know until you go. So I've done a bunch of those. Sometimes they pay you, sometimes they don't, and then sometimes they have the little device where you turn the knob to indicate if you like this scene or you don't like the scene. So yeah, I did a whole bunch of those, but Howard the Duck was one of them.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Yeah, because I'm really curious about this. Sure. And let's welcome Chris Buskirk. A producer girlfriend, she used to be a sampler for McDonald's in Illinois. You were a movie tester. Lewis?
I did a test movie. It was for the Mel Gibson film Ransom at the Cineplex Odeon on Route 4 in Paramus, New Jersey.
How do you? I mean, I'm being serious. Like, where do you sign up for something like this?
Well, they were doing it outside the theater. You came out. Mm-hmm. They gave you a form or something, and then you got a voucher. They didn't even give you a form. They give you a voucher for a free movie that was going to be shown on a particular day and time. And then after the movie, we had these it was just like a
question.
Yeah. And you'd fill them out. They gave you those little pencils, no eraser, Judah. And that was it.
Yeah.
I like how Chris Buskirk joined in and he's like background.
Yeah. So
the two of you are wearing your gang colors today.
Right. So Howard, I was in a test audience for Howard the Duck, and I hated it, but I still couldn't stop it.
So that's a movie you would not want your kids to watch.
God, no. It was, there was a scene in that film where the duck makes out with Leah Thompson. Now, how her career...
Is that where the expression lucky duck came from?
That's the opposite.
How her career recovered from that, I don't know.
And what about the duck?
What about the dog?
Well, he's actually made something of a comeback.
That was actually at the height of her career, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
But you went through a whole scribble in your head of things that you don't want kids to watch and all that stuff. I just saw your brain.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't thinking overrated. I was thinking this is an aesthetic horror show. Cobra.
What
Oh,
do you mean? I
please.
love Cobra.
What?
wait.
You're
Okay,
the
so now
That's mandatory viewing,
hold
Ben.
on. I'm
you're
going to
the
take
disease
us
and I'm the poison.
Oh,
One of the best.
wrong. Not wrong. Wrong.
You're the disease. I'm the cure.
Right. Not you.
Yeah.
You had such a crazy mini stroke.
Yeah.
And by the way, Cobra is Sylvester Stallone's version of Beverly Hills Cop, because when he was presented with the script, the direction he wanted to go in was not the direction that Martin Brest, the director of Beverly Hills Cop, wanted to go in. And that's how we got Cobra. And for the most part, as I understand it, there really wasn't much of a script to Beverly Hills Cop. And that's why Eddie Murphy made it so incredible, because he improvised most of the movie.
By the way, we have no fact checkers for you today, Lewis. So pretty much whatever
I
you
know
said
it's
is
100% fair.
is-
You're the disease, I'm the poison. My God, what a crazy stroke that was.
I was Lewis. I was close enough with my Cobra, Ben, and we all agree. So you're out of the equation of the Cobra movie.
Hold on, I'm going to give you one more. Go ahead. I don't shop here anyway.
I thought the best version of Cobra was in the opening 2 minutes of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Doesn't he have a toothpick in his mouth like through the whole film?
I think so, yeah.
Anyways, so name some other movies, Ben, since you really seem to be,
Well, no, now I want to see. No, I want yours. I mean, when you were
okay,
thinking
I'll
about
tell you
this, were
something.
you
My
thinking-
mother told me this after the show, and I don't want to get specific, but I had an uncle, let's just say, that called this person that's related to me very cloistered. And she came to sleep over one time only at my house. She never came over. Her parents, I think, were out of town. And my mom put on Problem Child. And apparently it gave her nightmares. And she was never allowed to sleep over at her house again because of my irresponsible parents.
I was trying to explain to Judah that's what in medical terms is called a autistic fit.
Yes. But I mean, I couldn't believe Problem Child. I mean, I guess if you're young, it could be inappropriate maybe, but
Jack Warden, John Ritter. Now, was John Ritter's future wife in that movie?
Yes,
She's
she
now
was.
Widow.
yes,
Right.
she was. But what movies would I not show to kids? I mean, there's a pretty much, like Chris said to me in the text, anything from the past 30 years. There's I don't think most TV shows, most movies these days are really kid appropriate. But as far as, we always go back to the 80s when I think it was the most kid appropriate decade.
But
Well-
Howard the Duck came out of it. So,
Sorry?
but Howard the Duck
Came out of it, yes. But Cloak and Dagger, which was one of my favorites, I don't know if I would show that. That also gave me nightmares. So
That gave you nightmares?
Remember the woman, the old woman missing the fingers as she chloroformed the kid Henry Thomas from E.T.? Yeah, the terrifying.
Vaguely. That's
Lewis, I was 6 years old when I saw it. It was a little scary. Anywho, Chris, what movies would you not show to children?
Harold and Maude.
Oh, that's a good one. which of course is on AFI's top 100 list. This is a good movie.
You know what? I've held every possible opinion on that movie, and I'm not sure where I am now. I think it's a good movie. Maybe just because I'm supposed to think that, but definitely don't show it to kids. I watched it on prototype cable when I was like 12.
Are we back at the Buzzkirk reviews?
Yes, I have the
Yes.
best.
Okay.
I have the best one to not show children or grown men, and I just forgot the name of it.
Oh, no.
And it's with John Lithgow and Robin. The World According to Garp.
Oh, excellent book.
No one should ever, if you're a man or a boy, see that movie. That is one of the most frightening. Have none of you seen that movie?
No, I
I've seen
saw
it,
it.
and I agree with you, John,
Yeah.
Judah. Just do not. I don't know why you brought it up.
So the book is excellent. I've only seen about 5 minutes of the film, but part of the movie was filmed where my sister-in-law, her family has a beach house or a summer home, which was Fisher Island, which has a Connecticut area code, but it's part of New York. That's my contribution to this discussion about John Lithgow as a transvestite.
Was that scene in the book? And Lewis,
Integral character.
Lewis, please don't eat, please. I beg of you. The world beg of you not to eat on camera, Lewis.
We're talking about movies. I'm having movie candy.
I'm
having jujus in honor of you.
And by the way, Caroline, Kaz, Kathleen, please feel free to share movies or television shows that are really you would not show your own children or other children. When we get back from break, I want to talk about most overrated movies of all time, because I'm actually interested, because I know that piques Lewis's interest. I know that piques Chris's interest. And I'm pretty sure, Ben, that piques your interest of movies that, you know, I remember. And the biggest thing I could remember is when they tried to push that movie Crash on everybody that won the Oscar.
Oh, yeah.
That won Best Picture, right?
That won Best Picture.
Yeah.
And I remember just at the time going, you know, I think that was really when I stopped watching the Oscars. And I just realized at that point it was sort of like this rigged game of intelligentsia. And anywho, when we come back, most overrated movies of all time, producer girlfriend, take us to a commercial break.
Do you live in a state other than California, Michigan, Illinois, New York, or New Jersey? Coming soon, you can order Colleen's Better Than Breadsticks online for delivery straight to your house. No need to go to a grocery store anymore. No need to call producer girlfriend and find out where to get them. You'll be able to get them online at colleensbetterthan.com, coming to an internet service near you.
Welcome back to the Four Esoterics, and thank you for that wonderful ad. Lewis, number 96 on the list of AFI's greatest movies of all time is a movie I know you hate more than life itself.
Tell me.
Directed by Spike Lee.
Oh.
Do the Right Thing.
I think it's a great movie. I can't stand Spike Lee. I would never deny Spike Lee's talent. And the same applies to Mel Gibson. I never understood why people had to go in making their point. And Christopher Hitchens in particular, he made his point, he made it well, but he had to go that one extra step, which was unnecessary and untrue, in saying that he was a hack actor and a hack director. I feel the same way.
Hold on a second. I'm really sorry, by the way. I didn't have the chat Zoom on, so now I can see what you guys are saying. So Caroline had written she wouldn't show Glee to kids before. So go on.
I think Do the Right Thing is an excellent movie.
Top 100 movie of all time.
I don't think was that their general list, or
yeah, it was their big list.
Oh.
I'm not big on lists. I would say it's Spike Lee's, if not his best film, his second best film. And
what's the other one?
What is
Malcolm X?
For top spot. What?
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X. I agree.
I thought you were gonna say Inside Man, which I actually enjoyed. But you could put.
I'll tell you a film.
Lewis, silence. We're not coming to save you if you start choking. And but Chris,
I'll tell you another great film. Underrated, exceptional soundtrack. Mo Better Blues, which got Spike Lee in trouble because he had John Turturro playing you. But it's a great film. It's a great film. And I want to come back to something that producer girlfriend said in the last show, because every film that you've mentioned so far that's inappropriate for children was on her list for films that she thinks children should see. But her list started with Caligula, Gore Vidal, Bob Guccione's Caligula, Schindler's List.
Life is Beautiful.
What's the Brando XXX Butter movie? Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah.
That was her serious list for kids. You know, And then that very creepy interlude of where she was doing the dialogue between herself and her mother about the birds and the bees and Patrick Swayze's Schwanz. Very, very disturbing. But a movie I think is unbelievably overrated that I saw in the theater and violates the rule about film remakes, which is you remake a mediocre film. You don't remake a good or great film. The Departed.
I couldn't stand it. I think it's one of the most overrated movies of all time. I didn't get it. I actually saw that movie with somebody named Mark Gordon, a television producer. I didn't know how, and somebody else, and I didn't know. And he said to me afterwards, "What do you think of the movie?" And I said, "God, I used that stupid line, it had so many, it was like Swiss cheese, it had a ton of holes." And he goes, "I'm going to call the writer." And I was like, "Please don't call the writer. Don't call the writer."
I don't see any reason why it should have been made, because the Hong Kong version, which is excellent and was critically acclaimed, there's nowhere to go with it. And that he won. Now I understand he won the Oscar because he didn't win so much for The Departed as it was an Oscar for right. Yeah. Right. But that another film, Dances with Wolves.
Blasphemy.
Dances with Wolves.
Look at your list.
Dances with Wolves won the year that Scorsese should have won.
Yeah, Goodfellas.
With Goodfellas. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was robbery.
Producer girlfriend disagrees with you. She calls it a masterpiece.
Of course she does.
Kathleen Danahy says it's overrated. So yeah, you're overruled, producer girlfriend. Although it did have one of the best Bryan Adams songs in it. So let's be, it did.
You think it could be made today with Kevin Costner play a white man playing an Indian, a Native American?
What about? I was watching an old episode of Hawaii Five-0 the other night where Ricardo Montalban played a Japanese. He played Japanese. But that's what they did. They used to do that, right? I mean, look at all the old.
Yeah, I know actors playing people who they actually aren't. It was a weird concept. It was a different time, Judah.
My theory about Costner has nothing to do with that, though. And Judah and I disagree on this. But my theory about Costner is the fact that after he
hold on 1 second. Wait, Kathleen, hold that thought. Let producer girlfriend finish, because we're going to get to the movie you just picked. So go on.
My theory about Costner is after he cheated on his wife, his career basically, he stopped becoming like women's fantasy. So no, I don't think you could have put out Dances with Wolves today, because the target demographic that he was going after at that time, which were, a certain like middle-aged women, wouldn't go after him now because they don't like the fact that he cheated on his wife.
Except for Larry Klayman, who loves him.
Yes.
And every actor in Hollywood, with the exception of Kevin Costner, is faithful to his spouse. So I see your point. And his most family-friendly film is No Way Out, and that's what made him. So there is some credence to what you're saying about him having severed the ties among women in particular and mothers.
No, Kathleen brings it up, by the way. Meg Ryan did it, ruined her career when she what was that, Proof of Life or Proof with Russell Crowe?
Yes.
When she cheated on Dennis Quaid, it took the shine off her as being America's sweetheart. She went from being and all the plastic surgery, but it did take that shine off the certain sweetness that she had. When that is your role of you being a good guy, a good family man, a good, he was a good in The Untouchables, Field of Dreams, all those movies, and then he cheated on his wife, it sort of does take the shine off a little bit.
Well, what about the Clint Eastwood film where he plays the escaped convict?
Yeah, A Perfect World.
Good movie.
That was a very good movie. Yeah. And getting to overrated movies, overrated directors, Kathleen Danahy, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, brought up Birdman. And it's actually funny because Lewis and I were talking about the director of that being one of the most overrated and annoying directors of all time. And I can't remember his name right now. So Kathleen, if you could tell us that, that would be great. But I would almost say anything from the past, like Chris said, from the past 20 years has been extremely overrated. Many
Here's
films.
a director we can all agree on that we definitely hate, and you especially, Judah, because I could see you as having been his PA. Harmony, what's his name? Carmine,
Kareen?
yeah, yeah. Judah was a PA for this guy.
Kareem.
It's Animal. Did the movie Kids,
Oh.
which is a very child-friendly movie.
His name is, I can't even pronounce his name. His name is Alejandro Inarritu. And all I remember is I had a friend at the time who invited me to the SAG. You know, like before the Oscars, they do that SAG thing, Lewis, across the street on Sunset. They do
You mean the Screen Actors Guild Awards?
Yeah, but they do.
That SAG thing?
No, but I think it's also for the people that are nominated for an Oscar. They have him over at SAG. And at the
Directors Guild.
The Directors Guild, yeah. And he was on stage and they said to everybody, like, how do you get ready for a movie? And he starts talking about how he meditates all the time in the morning. And I remember Clint Eastwood looking at him like he wanted to kill him. And they got to the guy that did School of Rock. And please tell me his name because I often forget it.
Overrated movies.
Very good movie.
But that guy, not Wes Anderson, but tell me his name. Richard, and he goes, I don't know. He's from Texas. And he said, you know,
Richard Linklater?
Richard Linklater. He's like, I don't know. I meditate. I go to work. I see people on the left of me digging ditches. I see people on the right doing construction. And I say, thank God I get to direct. And I love that answer, you know, but him being quite overrated. Anyways, getting back to you, Chris, who do you think is overrated?
Not who, but what? All Marvel movies except the first Iron Man.
Oh, I want Chris. Ben's the only person here that it could agree with you or disagree with you.
I know that's Ben fodder right there.
No, I generally agree. I thought all of those movies were and are essentially spectacles. They're
the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire is decent.
Yeah, but
that's pre the Marvel.
Pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What about the original Avengers? I sort of like that.
I have to tell you, I don't obviously like those movies, but I like the first Iron Man a lot. I thought it was very good. It was sort of like
very well received.
If they had kept that vibe, it would have been a lot more interesting to middle-aged men in Arizona, which is their target demo.
Right.
The first Iron Man was actually, I thought it was actually pretty good too.
It was directed by Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he direct that one?
He directed that one, yes.
And we actually, in the Iron Man 3, Lewis and I, and we all know Ashley Hamilton, who had a brief cameo appearance, and not a cameo, but a brief appearance in Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
and
he has an untimely demise in the movie.
He did. He blew up, and at the man's Grauman, or the Chinese man's Grauman theater,
which does not actually serve Chinese food. Judah went there on a Sunday and was outraged.
He went there for Christmas Eve. Let's be honest.
Yes.
No, but
which fell on a Sunday.
Gosh, on a Sunday.
But
now, somebody in our forum here, I think it's the lady on her couch. She just had a crazy TIA mini stroke. She says Braveheart is overrated.
I'm going to let Ben handle this one because I imagine Ben might be in the same boat.
No, I saw
Braveheart is.
I think I saw Braveheart twice in the theater.
Chris?
Now, what happened to the sequel? There was a Robert the Bruce.
Sorry, Kaz, and one of the greatest lines in the movie. Every man dies, but not everyone really lives.
Wrong. Any Tim Burton film? Absolutely wrong. I'm going to tell you one of the greatest Tim Burton films. No, the greatest Tim Burton film made, period. Say it 3 times. Come on.
Beetlejuice.
Correct.
And on that note, Ben, take us to commercial.
Well, we don't, you may not be watching this on Saturday, but we're recording this on Saturday. And if it's Saturday, that means prime rib at Stone Creek Bistro. That's where I'm heading after we finish this up. Stone Creek Bistro in Blue Jay, California. Best food on this mountain. www.stonecreekbistro.com, where you can check out the full menu. and get directions and any other information you need. You can see gorgeous pictures of the food by Chef Sam Perry. Stone Creek Bistro, www.stonecreekbistro.com. Yum.
And thank you for that. We definitely do not get the pictures from you because all we get from you is pictures of empty plates.
Correct.
Welcome everybody back to the
Had
floor.
I not actually eaten at this restaurant, I would not be convinced that they served food.
I want to welcome everybody back to the Four Esoterics.
Oh, wait, hold on. My wife is here. Do you want to say hello to everybody? She said no.
I don't blame her, Lewis. I would not want to be seen with you either. And we want to welcome everybody back to the @4 Esoterics. That's number 4, ESOTERICS. Subscribe to us on iTunes, follow us on Twitter, and all those great places. And we're talking about today about movies, overrated, underrated, things you wouldn't want to show your children. But what Oscar-winning films are considered, do you think, overrated? Citizen Kane. I want to ask Lewis this because he's got to run in a second. Do you think that really is the #1 movie of all time?
I don't. So here's my rule. I don't have a favorite. I have favorites. And the person I plucked from obscurity, I mean, she was literally a week removed from a refugee camp, and I brought her to the attention of Ben, and she's a fabulous writer.
Mhm.
And Amina Milana.
It's Malonic.
I like my version.
Okay.
So she is once again broken and entered into my brain and stolen my dreams because I love Orson Welles. And his last and greatest film role was as a planet in the Transformers movie, the animated movie, which my brother saw with our paternal grandmother in Boca Raton, Florida. My brother raced to a phone when the movie was over. He raced to our grandmother's phone, called me and said they use the word shit. They say shit in the movie.
By the way, you didn't answer the question. Citizen Kane.
It's a great film. Touch of Evil, great film. Another movie couldn't be made today. Heston playing a Latino.
Yeah.
And all, ready for this? Just because of the mustache.
That's right.
But my question.
Do me a favor, though. Bring me, because I am so
#1.
homesick, Judah. I'm so homesick.
#1.
I don't know. I'm so homesick. Do me one favor. Put it on the outside of the shirt and say, give me 2 Bialys, please. Come on.
Oh, Lewis, fine. What about you, Ben? Overrated movies. Oscar for movies.
Yeah, this one won for best screenplay, and I don't understand why. Lost in Translation.
I agree with you.
Oh, that's a sweet movie.
I love that movie.
Really?
I'll tell you what isn't a sweet movie by
I couldn't
Sophia
get through
Coppola.
it. I couldn't get through it.
Well, if you couldn't get through that, then you should go to a theater with a loaded revolver and a bottle of scotch and watch Somewhere. Because the beginning of Somewhere, which is just a Ferrari going in circles on a racetrack with Stephen Dorff, which I went to see because I wanted to see them. I wanted to see how Sophia Coppola would romanticize the Chateau Marmont. You won't even make it through the first 10 minutes. You'll take a swig and then boom, right through the roof of your mouth.
Okay, producer girlfriend, you love that movie. What movies do you
She
think?
loves Somewhere?
No, she loves Lost in
Okay, because
Translation.
it's nowhere.
I'd have to agree with Caroline L. Most overrated Oscar movie, Titanic, but I'll take it even one step further and say anything James Cameron after True Lies should just be erased from our zeitgeist. I would never I would just say, you know what, something happened to him and you shouldn't watch any movies after True Lies. Because
As if James Cameron movies were a statue, I would tear them down.
yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. That's not fair. Aliens was awesome.
No.
And then that little film that I mean, it's
After-
obscure.
yes.
It's an art house film, but it's got a cult following. Terminator.
No, but Terminator is before True Lies.
I know that, but
Right.
but Chris Buzzkirk, the
Yes, I was
chair of film
seconding producer
criticism.
girlfriend. Anything after True Lies.
Oh.
Okay.
Like,
Right, but you said if you
Avatar,
were a
don't
statue,
care
you
about.
tear him down.
He means pre 1990.
I know that. Greatest thing about here's a James Cameron film, and the greatest thing about it is one of the co-stars, The Abyss. You know why The Abyss is an amazing movie?
Why?
Because it's co-starring Chris Elliott.
Yeah. The guy who
Which
was in one of my,
also makes Almost Heroes a great movie.
who was in one of my favorite shows when I was a kid.
Get a Life.
Get a Life, which
That
the
is a good
theme
mo- that
song
is a good
was,
show.
REM Stand in the Place with Stand.
Hold
And-
on, I gotta go. My
Okay.
daughter's having tennis.
Have a good Shabbos.
Yes, goodbye.
Turn your camera off. Thank you. And we have lost our.
That's a
Please
great
get these
shot.
screenshots of when Lewis leaves the screen. But
We must memorialize Lewis sniffing his own armpit.
Great. Yeah, getting back to Titanic, just to amplify Caroline's remark, the best part was when the ship sank. I remember into hour
Cheering.
4 or 5 of that movie, thinking, for God's sake, sink already. Sink.
Can I tell you a great inside story about that movie?
Sure.
So you know that it would cost a ton of money. So Paramount split the cost with who? Producer girlfriend, was it Fox? It doesn't matter.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's a famous lawyer, a very famous lawyer, who handled all the contracts for Paramount. And when they were discussing it, he said, why don't we just, and they were talking about the budget. He said, why not just take out the ship? And he said this jokingly. He wasn't being serious. And all of a sudden, all the other people in the room started going, it's not a bad idea. He's like, we already know it sinks. And people are just like sort of following in line with this joke that he's saying, but they're not joking. And James Cameron's like, you can't take out the goddamn ship. It's Titanic. It's about a ship. And that's my funny inside Hollywood story about Titanic and the legendary Bill Bernstein suggesting that.
So I have many friends who have worked on that film. And a lot of stories I cannot say, but I have had one friend who almost died on that film twice.
Good Lord.
Because he fell into the water. But it has been my dream to collect all those people that I know, take them to a bar, put down an Amex, get them super drunk, and hear all of the stories. Because as I've been told many of the stories about what's happened and just how unruly it was. But I also know that those stories are starting to fade from their minds because it was so tormenting to them that they're trying to like block them as, and I keep trying to bring them back and they keep blocking them. But it was not a healthy work environment. Let's just say that.
I'm shocked.
Very, very least.
I'm shocked. Somebody in Hollywood not creating a good work environment, but preaching to the rest of us.
Yes.
Shocking. And Caroline L. has said she will send memes of Lewis exiting the chat. So thank you for that. Please meme away.
So when people say, why do you guys do the 4 esoterics? For the memes. We do it for the memes.
But I got to, and I want to ask the Caroline, Kathleen, do people even care about the Oscars anymore? Like at a certain point,
Are they still doing it?
they don't even have a host, and
they are still doing it April 28th. It got pushed 2 months.
But my question is, like, when Crash did that and it won the Oscar, it really did take the shine off what the awards were, because it was more of a political award. It was more like it was the first time I could remember an award being given not because of acting or strictly because of subject matter.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I've watched the show. I know I have, and it's been it's probably been 15 years.
Carol, Pro asked, do you get Sky? Yes, we get. I mean, some of us get Sky. I'm not sure where that question. Sky TV, yes.
Sky TV.
No, that was me asking our friends overseas if they get Sky TV.
Oh,
because that's where it would be shown.
But, here's another thing, by the way. I'm often curious because the Oscars are obviously very American driven, right? And very, very obviously, they're most of the films are or American movies. And my question is for the people that are abroad, I always wonder if they have the same outlook on The Breakfast Club as we did as Americans, or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like when they see those movies over there, our movies, do they go, wow, Platoon was a wonderful movie? Like, does Platoon work in England? Does Platoon work in Australia?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
I always think it's interesting to see what the BAFTAs produce, which is the weekend before the Oscars, because I feel that kind of gives a more European taste on what movies are enjoyed over there as opposed to here. They used to say that the BAFTAs were like a precursor to the Oscars, so that what won at the BAFTAs would usually also win at the Oscars, but it's becoming quite divided over the last few years. So I always think that's a pretty interesting parallel to look at every year.
So apparently you have to pay extra for the channel that carries the Oscars.
Yeah.
And she wrote, I think every American high school type movies are very romanticized over here. Oh, so
which
there
is
you
interesting
are.
Because on my movies to not watch, I have American Pie 2 and 3 and all the American Pies after 1.
I'm not even sure.
Didn't
I'm
you
not
want to
even
know what
sure.
happened with Stifler's mom? I mean, can you really? So you see the first one, aren't you? Do you want to leave people hanging like that?
Well, Eugene Levy just kept making those movies because I think he needed money, but they just got worse and worse and worse.
That's very interesting. Kaz McCoo wrote, all teenagers over here want to be American. That's very interesting. I'm actually curious if that's still the case. But because I remember I had this friend that was from England, and she wanted, I'm sure there was this movie she begged me to watch called The Deep Blue, or it was who was the star? It was Jean Reno, and it was a diving movie, and the whole movie was about him diving, like who could dive deeper in like this massive contraption. And that was like, she said, that was their Ferris Bueller. And I was like, if this is your Ferris Bueller,
Oh boy,
you guys are in a lot of trouble. And, so it's just funny what I think, what sometimes translate, but to go, you guys did give us 2 great Australian actors, which is Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe. And yeah, so that's my take on that. So what are some of your most overrated movies, Chris? Or is just every movie that's currently made overrated to you?
Yeah, well, so I gave you the Marvel
theater
movies.
a lot.
I looked at, and I was getting ready for this. I was looking at just a list of the best pictures, like over the last 30 or 40 years, and I expected it to be a total dumpster fire. And actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought. But gosh, there's some questionable choices in there. Like Chicago wins Best Picture, like whatever, 10 or 12 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever that was. It's like a mediocre play in a worse movie. How did that win Best Picture? Like, was there nothing else produced that year? Like, right? I mean, am I off base here? I mean, Chicago is like,
you're
fine, but really,
and
the
I don't
best
see
thing made
Ben
that
being
year?
a huge Chicago fan.
What?
I don't see Ben being a huge Chicago fan. Kathleen Danahay agrees with you. Kathleen, I'm just going to start calling you Kathleen, agrees with you. I agree with you completely. The last movie I was actually rooting for that won Best Adapted Screenplay was Little Miss Sunshine. And I think that was the last Oscars I actually watched because I wanted to watch Alan Arkin give his speech. That was because I am a massive Alan Arkin fan. And she wrote.
So does that make you a fan of The In-Laws?
Oh, it's one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Thank you. I knew I liked you.
It's one of my favorite. Listen, I have had producer girlfriend. We have been watching Peter Falk on loop interviews on YouTube.
Oh my God.
And I am and I encourage everybody to watch Peter Falk on loop on YouTube, because if you did not know, the Columbo jacket was actually his own. And he actually brought it to set that day and wore that jacket. But you see, that's a perfect example. The In-Laws. I don't know how that didn't win. We're talking the original one, right? Yes, not with Albert Brooks and
Yeah, right. Okay. No, the original is a classic. That's one of the funniest movies I've ever
Michael
seen.
Douglas, which brings to the point, by the way, of Lewis's
Mm.
point of remaking movies. That was not the best idea for a remake. Or when they made The Honeymooners with who was it? Cedric the Entertainer as as as, as Ralph Cramden. Yes, Carol. She wrote that was an interesting fact about. But go on. What other movies did you see that you didn't think deserved to win? I'm curious now.
Well, I did stumble across one funny thing on these lists. This was on Business Insider, and they had like an overrated movies list. So I thought, oh, okay, what does Business Insider think? Like the number 3 or 4 thing on their overrated movies list was The Triumph of the Will.
Oh,
was,
by Lenny Riefenstahl.
yes, like it's a Nazi propaganda film from the 30s, where there are a lot of people out there like touting that as, of all the movies that I really enjoy.
It's
Like,
one of the
was that a thing? And they felt like, actually, we've been watching it here at the office, and we think, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but not that great.
It was one of the original Criterion Collection like picks. And actually, I own the original Criterion Collection DVD, and you can't find it anymore. It's really rare to find because I think they yanked it right away.
Oh, that's probably true.
But I don't even know if it's on the Criterion Collection app on Apple TV. But for some reason, that movie in film schools, like
Yeah.
that is like a must see. Like you walk in and you have to have seen that before you even start your film education. I didn't get it.
You see, here's the thing about, by the way, I just want, because I'm reading the list here and I'm looking at, obviously the list, they look at, Spielberg gets on it a ton and so does Kubrick. I happen to think A Clockwork Orange is one of the most overrated movies of all time.
100%. That's actually a very good call.
And I think it's a movie that no kid should ever see. But they also have Easy Rider, which I don't, I mean, maybe
Easy Rider's dumb. Nothing happens in that movie.
Just a terrible movie. Psycho's overrated. I agree with you, Caroline L. That's another movie that's on the list. And they have number 7, 12 Angry Men, which should be like number in the top 15 to me of movies of all time, because it makes you think. It's one of those really, I mean, just an all-star cast. And what about you, Ben? I mean, what were your
more overrated ones?
Yeah,
well,
overrated Oscar movies.
Overrated Oscar movies, yeah.
Sixth Sense is number 89 on this list. Who the hell is working at AFI? That's what I want to know.
What one?
The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense.
Really?
That's one of AFI's top. I mean, it was interesting once, but then it everybody ripped it off. Everything has to have a twist. I was looking at the list of best picture winners just to see, as Chris had said, he thought it was going to be a dumpster fire, and it turned out to be not as bad as he thought.
There's stinkers in there, right? But actually, there's a bunch of good movies too.
Yeah, well, if you look at the last 20 years, go back to say 2000 when American Beauty won. Now, I saw American Beauty in the theater. I don't know.
Don't knock it. Producer girlfriend will never talk to you again.
Yeah, I'd have to see it again.
Can I say something? I think, and I want to ask the women.
The plastic bag.
We're very female friendly, so I want to know the women's. There are some movies like American Beauty that women might have appreciated more than us.
So I'll tell you my story about when I saw American Beauty. It came out in 99.
99, yeah.
I was a senior in high school, fall senior high school. My uncle is 6 years older than me, and he says to me, "Hey, do you want to go see American Beauty?" That was our thing. We would see a movie on Thanksgiving after dinner was done. So me and my very cool uncle take my other uncle, who's very, very straight-laced, and his wife, who's an opera singer, with us. Now they are like church going every day from Indiana. We take them to this movie, and the two of them hate it. And me and my uncle, my cool uncle, love it. and I say to my uncle, okay, this is why I'm going to go be a camera person.
Mhm.
Right. And the straight laced uncle looked at me and said, your mother just raised you wrong. He was like, to this day, I wanted to like punch him. Right. But I thought it was a beautiful movie. I thought it was very unusual for the time. I think the late 90s had a surge in really great Oscar movies.
Mhm.
And after looking at all the Oscar movies recently, like 2018 should just be erased. That year for movies, I looked it over again and I'm like, why? Every movie on there is just not interesting.
The Shape of Water was absurd.
Yeah.
No, I'm convinced these people are massive narcotics at the AFI.
That's what I think too.
And it's you know what it is? It's
Arrogance.
It's arrogance, and it's nobody wanting. We're learning these days that people don't have the courage to speak up a lot, and I think there's a certain, especially in Hollywood, that people like when they watch something go, "What the hell did I just see?"
Right.
You know what? You know, for me, and producer girlfriend and I disagree on this. Daniel Day-Lewis, I get it. You're a great actor, but do a comedy. Okay, like do a damn. Him and Meryl Streep should star in a comedy. Okay, it's like enough. Like, you know, and There Will Be Blood and all these movies. They're just not. I just, it wasn't my thing.
I loved There Will Be Blood, but you got your wish. He's retired, so there was enough of Daniel Day-Lewis.
He's retired for now. I went to see that movie that he was in for 2.5 hours. What was it? Where he was like a clothing designer. Okay.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I'll be honest. There's the two most painful movies I've ever sat through was that and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Okay, because all I could dream about the whole movie was him turning into a baby, because I knew the movie was over, because that would mean he died. Okay, I mean, I remember everybody going, "Oh, you got to watch this movie," and I think people are scared sometimes to say, "What are you talking about? The movie's horrible."
Yeah.
I think anything by Terrence Malick is kind of overrated. Like, also on my list was The Tree of Life, 2011.
Yeah.
But most of his stuff is just so long.
No, but like, how is Goodfellas number 92 on their list? I don't really get that. I don't get how it's number 92 and it's not in the top 20.
What are like, Judah? What are like 2, 3, 4, 5? What are those?
Okay, I'll give you. So Citizen Kane, The Godfather, Casablanca, Raging Bull, Singing in the Rain, Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia, Schindler's List, Vertigo.
Lawrence of Arabia is actually vastly overrated.
And Vertigo and The Wizard of Oz. So, I mean, how
long is Gone with the Wind gonna last?
It's being delisted. It's being removed from the list. I hope
they cancel the people who publish that list too. I mean, that would only be right.
Oh boy.
Which is sad, because
and also people who've seen the list.
But
I would say anybody who's seen the list, they're morally tainted at this point. So Judah, sorry, I've only heard it, so I'm safe.
I could be wrong, but wasn't that the first Oscar given to?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
Gone with the Wind.
Best
supporting actress.
To an African American. Yes, that was the first. We are living in weird times, and the whole point of the show really is to start. It's very hard these days, even when you're talking about a subject like this, to not think about what's going on in the real world, and to not think about, and not even being able to take a break, because even as we're discussing some of these movies, they're sort of being told to us. And I don't know if that's like that in Australia right now, or what's going on over there. If, they're telling you Don Bradman can no longer be announced as the greatest cricketer of all time. To those of you who don't know, Don Bradman is a cricket legend. And I'm curious to know, is this going on in all parts of the world? Are they like changing, the Dixie Chicks, right? Changing the name. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't chicks derogatory too?
It's not the same thing, Judah.
Right. They should just be like, they should be called No One Cares. like you've lost all relevance, band. And PC culture is changing everything, everywhere. Caroline L says, "Thank you very much, Caroline L." And you'd be, Caroline, we don't know who's listening. We don't know. We don't care. We're these people that think however you want politically. We love you no matter what. But there are some great pieces at AM Greatness that talk about that exact topic that we don't discuss here on air, how PC culture is changing everything everywhere. And it is a curious question if these things are going on across, or have we just lost our collective minds as Americans?
There's something in the air.
Mental psychosis is our #1 export, Judah.
I didn't hear.
Mass psychosis.
Mass psychosis is our #1 export. We used to export like steel and cars and things, but we've gotten beyond that.
This is great. Kaz McCoo wrote BLM marches every weekend here in UK. Enjoy yourselves over there, Caroline. Brought to you by the good old US of A. And we're great at importing and exporting. And if you just turning in, we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. Where you are listening to the 4 Esoterics. Producer girlfriend. Oh, Ben, you haven't actually given an ad for AM Greatness, so please do that.
Well, yeah. So we've veered dangerously close to politics in this particular episode, but that's not normally what we would do. But if you want a full frontal dose of politics, then American Greatness is the place to go. www.amgreatness.com, where you'll find writers, distinguished writers like Victor Davis Hanson and Conrad Black, and of course the great Julie Kelly. We got Ed Ring, we've got Brandon Weichert, and of course every morning Liz Shell delivers her Morning Greatness roundup of the most important stories of the day. That's all at American Greatness. www.amgreatness.com.
And welcome back to the 4 Esoterics. And I don't know, though, if that is veering into politics or veering into the real world. It's such a hard, because politics really does consume us. As we're saying these names of movies, we could, it's the line is getting thinner, Ben, is all I'm saying.
Sure.
It's very hard.
This stuff really worries me. I just, when the news came out, a week or two ago about Gone with the Wind, I was like, oh my God. And I immediately ordered a copy of the DVD.
Oh, I did the same thing, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
It's shipped. It hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, I got it last week. And
you are officially in the system.
Sure. Oh, well, no, listen.
Been there for a while, Judah.
Yeah, believe me, someone's got a list and I'm on it.
I'm actually curious though, from Kaz and or Caroline, like when you hear that they're canceling or they pulled Gone with the Wind, and you think to yourself, what are you doing?
You know what they did? What they did was almost as bad. And they brought it back so the story was they pulled it from HBO Max. But what they did was they appended something at the beginning of it. Basically treating the audience like idiots. That's what they're doing. They're treating the audience like you're a moron and you can't think for yourself. They did the same thing with my son, who's now 18, loved Tom and Jerry, loved it. And I loved it too. Yeah, we had a whole bunch of DVDs of Tom and Jerry, but on there's one from a whole bunch of them from the 1940s where they had the black nanny character. And at the beginning of that DVD, there's Whoopi Goldberg giving a mini lecture on, the racism of these cartoons. Okay. We're not idiots. And that's what I really hate about all of this stuff. It's a contempt. It's a contempt for the audience, and it's making infants out of grown-ups, and it's disgusting.
And you know why I love you talking about this? Because you have Iron Man figures behind you. And no, and I'm not saying that in a joking way. It's, you have a love of these Iron Man figures. I'm actually really I sort of find it extremely cool, people that collect stuff like Lionel Trains, or like you have the Iron Man statues. You're not, my point is, you're not an angry fellow, you're just a concerned fellow. And there's
I get angry a lot. You
But
can't, I mean, you can't do this job without without reading headlines that just raise your blood pressure through the roof.
Hey, Caroline agrees with you 100%, Ben, when we're
Yeah.
being treated like we're stupid. And apparently we found a little cozy audience of women that think
Like what we're doing.
that are politically, no, you know what, this isn't even politics.
It's not even that.
But
It's,
This is it's people are telling us to close our eyes and ignore,
Or else.
and- sorry?
Or else.
Or else.
Or
And
else.
here's I want to give you a perfect example, because we were talking about this revisionist history. When the Little Rascals and the R Gang was around, right?
mhm.
Those producers and directors took monumental leaps to put African Americans in the TV shows. They were like not, they were not looked on in a good way. They really took a shot, and obviously Buckwheat's character, I could see how that's derogatory. I could see how some people, but I have news for everybody. All of those kids were treated like garbage. It didn't matter what they used to sprinkle hot water on them to make them cry. I mean, these kids were treated, and you can't watch Our Gang. It's off. It will never be seen on regular TV again. The Little Rascals and the Our Gang stuff. And it's sort of a scary thing they're telling us we're stupid. I don't think there's a better way of saying that. And it's very scary because we don't know what they're going to try to say we can't listen to or watch next. And so I don't know how we veered such off topic, but Ben, I don't know if that's off topic anymore, because I don't know, because we're discussing modern, past movies, and what's scary is we might not be allowed to watch some of these anymore.
That's right. And I feel the same way about books. I feel sometimes like I am an Irish monk.
Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, Kaz, we actually want to do this for studying. So Kaz, we're going to go a little over, because Chris actually asked you an interesting question. What shows are they pulling? What British TV shows are they pulling from streaming services in the last few weeks? I'm actually curious about that. If you could reply, Kaz, that would be great. So it's happening there too. I mean, it's in Australia, I would imagine. I'm curious that they're pulling stuff there too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's everywhere. And it's a, no, I feel sometimes like we have a duty to preserve civilization. We have a civilization. I sometimes wonder, like, when are we going to get to literal book burnings?
Okay, so Caroline wrote, "I'm joining the contraband movie and TV watching club." I love that. They pulled some comedy shows off Netflix. And I could imagine them pulling An Idiot Abroad, by the way, with Carl Pilkington and Ricky Gervais. They pulled Little Britain in episodes of Only Fools and Horses. Many more are discussed, but we're not familiar with those. But are those iconic British shows?
I know Little Britain. I know that one.
Little Britain.
Are those and Only Fools and Horses? They're very iconic stuff they're pulling there too. And it's fascinating times. So there you are, Chris.
I, for one, am looking forward to the future when we're not allowed to laugh.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
We've been told we're not allowed to laugh, and petitions are being created to get them put back on. I can tell you the sad part about that is the petitions will never work.
Yeah.
I've got some bad news for you. Ben, what were you about to say?
No, I think that's good though. I think that
They pulled
people
Chris
needed-
Lilly's TV show off because he was portraying a non-white character. Those shows are iconic. Adam Carolla said it the best. And I was listening to an Adam Carolla interview the other day where he was talking about he was Mr. T when he was in 1985. He played Mr. T. And somebody said, well, you were in blackface. And he said, no, I was as Mr. T. And they said, in blackface. And he said, no, in Mr. T. And he's like, you're getting confused between vaudeville and dressing up as your icon. We all loved Mr. T. And he
Right.
said, I am sure.
That's actually really good.
And he said, I'm sure if Mr. T would have seen me dressed up as Mr. T, he would have said, that's awesome. Some white kid is dressed up as Mr. T. I mean, like, you know, and I've seen interviews with Mr. T, who's one of the most loving guys in the world. And I'm sure Adam Carolla is right. He would have loved, and people can't separate. You know, it's like, I always, when I would see people dressed up, I'd say, nobody thinks when they see somebody dressed up as a person, says they're paying homage to them. They're not insulting them. And I can't think of a better thing sometimes to do.
I agree.
You know, I don't want anybody dressing up as Woody Allen, you know, that's just me, but it's not for Jewish reasons, but I am really curious with you guys. So Caroline, Kaz, Kristen, don't worry about Lewis. He had to take his daughter to go play tennis. I want to think about for the next show on Tuesday, let's help them. And Chris, this is my idea of let's helping them. Okay, so let's really get deep into TV shows that we find that we want to change their names, or actors whose names offend us somehow. And that's what I want our next show to be, is who we want to cancel. If for nothing else, I just want to cancel them. Like, my God, why won't you just be canceled already?
Yeah.
And you know, but at a certain point, you know, I was kidding before the show. Coach Steve calls. I don't know what that means, Kristen. Oh, tennis. I think at a certain point, like even a show like The Blacklist, do you change the name,
Ugh.
or do you just can't? Producer girlfriend.
I was gonna say, let's continue that thought next Tuesday.
Yes. Are you guys in for that? I really want a list. I want a list from everybody, from Kaz, from Caroline, from Kathleen.
I'll make a list and I'll check it twice.
Make a list. Yes. But I want a list from people and let's make it, because I think this is what's missing from this whole topic, is you could have serious discussion, but you have to have it with love and humor. And I think we've lost the love and the humor in all the serious discussion that's been going on, is that there's no tolerance, there's no love, and there's zero humor. Would you guys agree with that?
For the most part.
Chris?
Yeah.
Stoic man?
There is no humor. Humor is like, that's verboten. You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Ben, any last thoughts?
Well, this was a good one. And it took a surprising turn. How we got from Howard the Duck to preserving Western civilization in the course of an hour is quite a feat. So,
well, you want to know why, by the way, just so you know, because I stereotype too. We all stereotype. And so sometimes we're scared to talk. I'm scared to talk about stuff. And I didn't want to offend Caroline. I didn't want to offend Kaz. I didn't want to offend Kathleen. And I didn't want to offend, or we don't want to turn people away. But I think you don't turn people, and all of a sudden the discussion got honest as they were sharing similar thoughts to us. Right. And we all think, because we're taught, we're continually being told that everybody told the line, you know, that, you know, and Kristen says I can never offend her. I know you're friends with Lewis.
That's what Lewis is for.
So. Yes. That's it. That's exactly what I know. If you're friends with Lewis, Kristen, I'm never worried about offending you. And it did take. So sorry to interrupt you. Continue with your final thoughts.
No, that was it. I think you're right. You know, this is a good place to talk about some of these things, and we enjoy ourselves, and we enjoy talking about serious things in our day-to-day lives, but then we take a moment here, a break from the revolution, and talk about things that give us pleasure. So,
and I also, it's like, I want people to see, you know, we all agree that, no, we're you know, that it's about that, you know, the way home is about love, you know, and tolerance and patience and laughing and all that fun stuff. And you know, I don't know what, I totally lost my train of thought. Chris, final thoughts.
on the spot.
Man,
What?
overrated. That's my final thought.
What's overrated?
Rain Man.
Rain Man.
Very good.
A movie that might be canceled. And anyways, if you just tuned in, and I just want to thank all you guys for listening. I was about to say all you gals for listening, but
If you
I
just
don't
tuned
wanna-
in, you're too late.
I don't want to offend anybody, and I want to thank producer girlfriend. She, Chris, you just really offended Kaz by saying she loved Rain Man. You had it ended on a bad note. You just had to, and
Everything was going well until you went to me.
and Kaz and all you guys, create that meme of Lewis. It would be greatly appreciated. Steal your friends' phones and like the 4 esoterics for them. Subscribe to us. I'm not beyond begging. I'm not above it at all. It's the number 4 ESOTERICS, and you could subscribe there on iTunes, YouTube, and Twitter. And I agree with your sentiments, Ben. I'm extremely happy where this turned into, and it brings me hope. Actually, it brings me optimism. I want to thank you guys because it really made me optimistic, and I want to thank everybody for listening. Let's thank producer girlfriend one more time. Hopefully, an 8-time Emmy Award winner pretty soon, and have a great weekend. We will see you Tuesday.